Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. And today this is my rant of the day, and I'm recording it early because I already know what I want to say. I've got some classes later. But I will be back probably this afternoon, and I'm definitely tonight is the members live, which is really exciting because you know, small things excite me, my life's boring, but because I've got these new members emojis. So I'm really, really pleased with them, and it's something a bit different. So instead of if you're a member, you'll know that you get like a star with a different color depending how long you've been a member. And now I've got these little emojis which got like the dogs and no twonks today, etc. So I will be rotating them. So if you're not that keen on the one you've got at the moment, because if you've been a 2-month member, you'll get the 2-month member one. But I will be rotating them every now and again, and there will be new ones as time goes on. I'm just over the moon that I've actually been able to sort it out. Now, I just want to say, sorry, before I get into the rant, I want to show you. So the person that's helped me do these is, you'll probably see me do a little plug before for this person who's got an online store, and they're doing Christmas jumpers and little lists like for Christmas. There's so many things on there. Hoodies, sweaters, aprons, Christmas sweatshirts, horse rider apparel. So I just want to show you briefly their website. I think you can see it now, and I'm still waiting for my Christmas jumper. Do you know, it's like being in the what's the word? Like being in the Twilight Zone, being in Spain. Everything takes longer to get here. I've tried to order some of my own merchandise, and they don't print it in Spain at all. So it's got to come from another country. And so I'm not quite sure when that'll get here either. But anyway, I like this one as well with the mug. I like they're all lovely. And I'll say one's winging its way to me, and hopefully it'll be here very soon. So just, check it out, and you may see a Christmas jumper or a little something that you like, or because there's it's not all like the jumpers, which are relatively expensive, I suppose, if you think about it. Depends, what people are used to paying for. But there's little Christmas planners, daily planners, the aprons. I think there's something on here for everybody's price range. Okay, so and have a look at my little shop. I know it's coming up to Christmas, and I don't expect people to buy things because I know this is a hard time of year. I just wanted to, again, I'm just so excited that I'm sort of getting it off the ground. That's been another, just trying to work the shipping out. So the design and everything is easy, and then just trying to work out how to get it delivered to people has been quite difficult. Okay, so I'm not ranting on about that. I'm ranting on about a couple of things today, though. So the first thing I'm having a little rant about, it's not really a rant, as I say, but finally, and it's, to be honest, what we all knew anyway, Piers Morgan has now named the senior royals. Well, you can't get much more senior than king and queen, really, can you? But anyway, he's naming the senior royals who apparently had a little pop or made a comment about Meghan and Harry's baby. When Meghan was pregnant, made a little comment. Well, we'll have a look in a minute about what the comment was. And Piers Morgan isn't. So apparently, some guy in a book he wrote, a young guy, wrote these names in his book. That book's now been banned in Holland because it contains these names, which I just don't understand. if they said it, they said it. I mean, what they're trying to, just those people who did say it, just come out and say you said it if you didn't mean it in a racist way. And I personally, I don't think they made it in a racist way. It's like that. Just people say things, don't they, without thinking? Because I think it's only if you are multiracial, biracial, black, or whatever that you feel it, because you know how it feels to be discriminated against. And I think sometimes for white people, I honestly do think they don't understand where the offence comes from. So I think Harry himself actually called it unconscious bias or something like that. People say things and they're not saying them to deliberately to be nasty, but they're not seeing the hurt that it makes to that other person because they are not that other person. And I think that happens with a lot of things. Someone can make a throwaway comment about anything, can't they? About somebody being overweight or about somebody having a big nose or about, and think it's funny because they're not overweight or they haven't got a big nose and they don't know how it feels. So I think it's that sort of racism, if you like. I don't think it's like a nasty racism. I don't think so anyway. But
would be disingenuous of Harry after 2 years of feverish racism slurs.
He
then said, well, we never meant to infer racism.
No, but the whole point is
the thing is, we know that Piers Morgan does not like Meghan Markle. He's never got over the fact she blew him out, has it? It's the most ridiculous thing. Is this obsession, this middle-aged man's obsession with somebody who ignored him, who snubbed him. It's like, for goodness sake, get over it. Move on. So I don't understand his obsession with Meghan. I don't take Meghan's side or Harry's side. I haven't got any sides. I'm a Republican. But if I had to take a side, I would take their side because I think they've been reviled, for absolutely no reason whatsoever, except, again, not following the narrative, not doing what other middle-aged men maybe think that they should be doing. But anyway, so I don't understand his obsession with Meghan. And, until he started going on and on and on and on and on and on and on about that, I didn't mind some of his views because I always thought he was honest. I always like people who are honest with their views. But when they get stuck on one thing over and over again, it's just, to be honest, you just switch off, don't you? So let's have a look if I can find.
He comes onto the programme after Meghan has spoken and says, no, she's wrong. It all happened long before she was pregnant. It happened right at the beginning of our relationship. It was just a normal tea conversation.
Nearly 2 years before.
Exactly. And so Meghan had lied. I mean, there were 17 lies she uttered in the opera interview. That was one of her lies. And that is the problem. He's now hoist by it. But the real problem is he's caused enormous damage. And Scobie,
huge damage. And
Scobie, to get some money and all the rest, stirs it again and again and again. But this time, yet again, is
so Scobie is the very young guy who has written this new book.
With Meghan's approval.
Okay, Roy, look, you didn't know I was going to do the naming of these two people. I don't want to get you involved in that directly. You're a royal correspondent. But on the wider picture, this book is getting more and more attention. It's now front page news of many papers. It actually have any real effect, do you think?
Well, it's interesting you say it's full of damaging revelations, real proper evidence behind them.
I bet he says it right at the end.
They're all racist anyway, right?
It's not about individual people. So it's not they are all racist. They are as in an institution. That's not, that actually distracts.
What if they didn't say it at all?
Why on earth would we accept?
Simply because they're white and they're part.
Vote. It's about the.
No, but I'm trying to find the
I'm white. We can't help us.
A country like Britain, which is incredibly low, are going to cause this massive storm.
For racial equality, race profile, tries to pretend what they said to Oprah Winfrey was not what it was.
When's he going to say it?
Let's give them the chance to properly respond, because I don't believe a word of it. Anyway, Kehinde, it's always good to talk to you. Thank you very much. Tom, good to see you. Roy, thank you very much indeed.
Exclusively white for a reason. It is the head of the company.
From his own statement about the briefing from Jason.
It has a lot of damaging revelations. It follows a familiar pattern from his.
He's called enormous. Well, he or she have ginger hair. It's just
It was Camilla.
Intent
No,
for
no, I
any
mean,
comments
money
made.
on
No,
that,
no, I mean,
right from
the whole
beginning
stuff,
that
this is
Camilla would
actually I
have said
explained in my Megan book very
And
clearly.
he
It
said,
was to do with a parental problem. What will your
Anyway,
baby look like?
can't find
when
the
it comes from
exact thing. So it was Camilla apparently said, what if they have ginger hair? Well, you could say that's racist, but that's also quite offensive to people with ginger hair, really, isn't it? As if saying it as if that's something that would be a negative thing. But you know, there's been a lot blown out of proportion about this, in my opinion. And I think they should just say who it was, and whoever it was should just say, well, Camilla, I believe, and King Charles, I think. They should just come out and say, who said it? We didn't mean anything by it. Now, I don't know how a person of colour or a biracial person might look on that. And you know, you have to take what they think seriously, because they know how it feels to have people make snide comments, and it's not very nice, is it? So, and I was thinking about a friend of mine many years ago who, you know, her partner was black and they had a baby, so obviously it was a biracial baby. And when she told me that when the baby was born, the nurse at the hospital in Reading turned to her and said, because he was very pale skinned when he was born, her son, and the nurse turned to her and said, oh, you've done well, haven't you? Gosh. And it was just, now that nurse, I'm sure she didn't say that to be nasty, but you know, you wouldn't say it, would you? But you know, she probably, I don't even know why that nurse would have said that, but you know, you let me know in comments whether you think that's an offensive thing to say or not. I don't want to stir up a hornet's nest here. I'm not taking sides. I'm not saying things are racist or not racist, but I do think that you cannot understand how it feels for someone to say that to you unless you are in that group. You know, it's like someone insults a woman. I don't think a man can understand it quite the same, or vice versa. Or insulting a person's religion or their race, or but yeah, for that nurse to turn around and say that when her son was born, and say, because he was light skinned, oh, you've done well, haven't you? You know, obviously inferring that if he would have been dark skinned, that she would have done quite badly. I mean, goodness me. So, but this is what I think Harry was referring to when he did go back on, didn't he, and say this was not racist. It was unconscious bias. He said that about, you know, and the thing is, when you're in an environment when probably almost 100% of the people you're dealing with are whites, you do say things. I remember the weatherman on Good Morning Britain, Alex, because you know that was all that fuss, wasn't it, with Piers Morgan and that, and he is biracial, and he said it's worse sometimes when you are quite light skinned, because people don't seem to think that you will be offended when they say things, you know, like, so people tend to say more things in his presence because he's quite light skinned. And he looks, you know, more Caucasian, I suppose, and so he hears a lot more that, you know, he feels that people relax a lot more in his presence and say things, but he does find them offensive. So obviously one of his parents is black. Anyway, so that's my first rant of the day. It wasn't quite a rant, it's amusing. I don't mean it's amusing that it's funny, it's a musing over, you know, where do we stand on this? Do we feel that was, you know, what is racist? I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? And it's funny because I feel like we've gone backwards sometimes, because when I was at school, I had friends from all over the place, all different skin colours. We never even discussed it, never even thought about it. Again, probably I didn't see anything because I am not black, you know, so I'm sure they experienced racism. I do remember that I had one of those gollywog like a little badge from the marmalade at the time. I was collecting the badges from the marmalade, and then I had a boyfriend who was black, and he really found it offensive. And you know, before then, I don't think I'd even ever thought that it was a black person. To me, it was just a cute little badge, and you know, I'm probably offending lots of people now, but when I was a child, one of our toys was Foffy the Gollywog. But again, I didn't think of it. I mean, it seems horrible now, even just saying the word feels. Bleh. But at the time, I'm saying, at the time, it wasn't a conscious thing that, you know, we didn't even think of it like that. So what I'm saying is, God, I feel like I've offended probably everyone here. Nowadays, it's good that people are more aware of what they say and what they do. It doesn't seem to have made things better. That's what I think. All this awareness doesn't seem to have made things better. If anything, it's made things more acrimonious. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, and I'm all in favour for taking the knee at football. I stand against racism. To me, is really important. But it's also important to stand against any sort of discrimination. Women get discriminated so much, you know, nobody gets on the knee against domestic violence against women or men. You know, this is what I mean. We've got to be aware of all kinds of discrimination in my eyes, and I would hate to think I'd hurt anyone's feelings by something that I'd said, but I'm sure I have over the years just said something without thinking. My parents' generation, I mean, they used to say all sorts of things. I used to go mad, but again, that was where they came from, you know, and that was all they knew at the time, but they did get better over years, you know. It's a very difficult, I feel like I picked a very difficult subject here to rant about, but I just wanted to let you know. So from what I can tell, I think it's Camilla and King Charles who apparently made this comment. Well, it's definitely Camilla. And the comment really technically wasn't about Archie's skin colour. It was apparently about what if you have any children with ginger hair or something like that. But yeah, more offensive maybe towards people with ginger hair. So that's the first one. So I feel like that's opened a can of worms. I'm sure you'll all be like, got this on the, please be kind. I don't mean to offend anybody. I really don't. Oh, and the second thing that I want to rant about, which to be honest, I think it might be less contentious, is in the COVID Enquiry today. Our ex-leader of the health service, Matt Hancock, or as I like to call him, Matt half-cocked, but then it turned out he wasn't half-cocked after all, was he? Because in the end, it turned out that while everybody else was staying in and social distancing, etc., he was actually breaking his own COVID rules with and having an affair with what's her name? Gina, I think her name was. There she is. Yeah, he was having an affair. He was caught on camera. I mean, who released that? You know, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Somebody released that CCTV of him grabbing hold of Gina's bottom. I wonder if there's a bit that's probably been removed now. So this is the lady that was like, I think they're still together. I think, you know, he did leave his wife for her. I'm sure he was in love. His excuse was he fell in love. He fell in love. That's what he said on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, didn't he? When he was sort of tackled about it, he said, well, I fell in love. So what do we think about that? You know, he was the health secretary at the time. You know, if your own health secretary is releasing these, making these rules, cannot look, stay alert, control the virus, save lives. I used to hate these banner things they used to put on, like oh, there she is, Gina Coladangelo, I think her name is, or something. She's got quite a difficult surname for me to pronounce. Yeah, so he's given evidence today in the COVID inquiry. So he's already been described in very flowery terms by Dominic Cummings and other people that have given evidence. I think everybody knows that Matt Hancock is a twonk. He's not perhaps the best health secretary we've ever had. And unfortunately, it was in the, you know, the worst of times, wasn't it, during COVID, when we really needed a really good health secretary to set an example and lead the nation, etc. And instead we got him. But yeah, I wonder why that photo's not coming up. Because I don't know if you remember the photo, but he was, you know, it was a very passionate clinch. He sort of grabbed her bottom. Yeah, it was very graphic. But I would love to know who released that CCTV from number 10. You know, that was deliberately released, obviously, but I wonder who it was. I had my money on Dominic Cummings at the time. But yeah. So, and I'm giving Matt Hancock the title of Twonk of the Day today. I think he is a twonk. He was a twonk. My friend works in a care home and they received a letter saying, you know, when he said he put this arm around everybody to protect vulnerable old people. No, he didn't, because he sent, my friend's a manager of a care home, and they received a letter. All care homes received the same letter or email saying they must accept patients from hospital. They must accept them in the care home, and whether they've had a COVID test or not, because I think at the time the COVID tests were just sort of, you know, coming into play or whatever. So she had to accept patients who had gone into hospital with COVID and just had to accept them back without them being tested and just keep them isolated and hope that COVID didn't spread through her care home and kill off all the residents, which actually were not elderly people, were people with disabilities, because her care home looked after people that had been exposed to German measles when they were young, and it had left them with mental challenges, or you know, maybe they couldn't see, maybe they were even blind and deaf, and mentally affected by the disease. So, you know, they were all ages. They were just people who their parents couldn't cope, but could do some things themselves. So my friend's care home, it's like, you know, they did go out, they would go swimming, they would go shopping, they had their own money, but they couldn't live independently. So it was almost like a shared house, a great big house, shared house, with staff there 24 hours a day to make sure they're all okay. They were never allowed out on their own, or, you know, they always had to be monitored one-to-one. So Matt Hancock, or Matt Halfcocked, or how, you know, twonk of the day, he sent them a letter and said that they must accept the ill people back into before they were better. So there you go. That's Matt Halfcocked for you. So he's doing the COVID inquiry today. We'll see what he has to say. And okay, that's it. I'm off. Got some classes, but I'll see you later. I'll see the members later in the members live. Looking forward to that, because I've had a little break from lives after all the drama. So we're drama free now. I hope I haven't said anything too contentious today. I'll probably get a load more drama. But anyway, I just have to say what I think. You know, that is me. I am me. And what you see is what you get. I can't change from that. So, okay. Thanks so much for watching. See you really soon in the next video. But until then, remember to live and love wisely, carefully, and may your God always go with you. Bye.